Welcome back to My Time to Fly. Lately, I've been getting a question asked quite a bit. And by quite a bit, I mean absolutely constantly. That question is, how much was your plane to purchase? You see, that question's originating from a video that has been getting some traction. Maybe that's how you found the channel. That video being cost to own, my exact details, or something like that. Right? How much did it cost me to own an airplane for the previous year? And although I'm really thankful that many of you have found that video, it seems that I've left out some important information, at least in some of y'all's eyes. The information specifically, how much it cost to purchase the airplane, what was my upfront expense, because surely that has some ongoing expenses. Well, in my case, I'm fortunate because it doesn't. That plane is paid for, which, at least my half, I own it in a partnership and it's paid for. So I don't view it as a yearly expense. Now, I understand proper accounting probably dictates that I have a depreciating asset and I need to write off a certain amount every year. And quite honestly, that stuff makes my mind melt. What the point of that video was really to discuss how much cash was coming out of my pocket on a yearly basis to keep this airplane flying. And I know we've been very, very fortunate to not have any major expenses. But again, I think the video really did show how much it cost us to run that airplane for the year. Maybe we're not quite as aggressive as we should be on saving for an engine or major expenses. But again, that was my cash outlay. Now, with that said, I'm completely happy to share the details around how much it cost us to buy the airplane. It doesn't bother me one bit. I just don't think it made sense in that video. So here, let me talk about it. And maybe more importantly, let me talk about how we got a good deal on the airplane, how good deals are still out there to be had, and how I think if you put a couple strategies into place, you can also get a good deal on an airplane. So, to be clear, I'm going to talk about how much we paid for it, and I'm going to talk about three factors that helped us get a good deal on the airplane. I'll also tell you about how I financed the airplane when I was paying on it, because I didn't pay for it cash right off the bat. I was just fortunate enough to pay it off quite quickly. I do just want to put the disclaimer out there. This is what worked for my situation. I in no way can estimate all of your variables in your life. And I certainly am not in a position to tell you what to do with your money or what's best for you. This is what worked for me. Maybe it'll give you some ideas of what could work for you. Or maybe you look at it and say, "Ooh, that won't work for me. I need to go find another option." So, without further ado, the real answer to how much we paid for our 1963 Mooney M20C, which has about 800 hours on the engine. It's IFR capable. Not WASP, but IFR capable. Was $32,500. We bought it about a year and a half ago, and I certainly believe that we got an excellent deal on the airplane. Now, the 32.5 was kind of just the beginning. We knew that there was some work that needed to be done, some extra expense, if you will. We instantly put $2,000 into a tail beacon and spent another $1,000 or more on new engine mounts because there were a couple that had worn out. And of course, we spent money on travel to go inspect the airplane, and we spent money on the pre-buy inspection, right? All these things were added costs. So for nice round numbers, including taxes that are owed to the government and all that fun stuff, let's just say we spent $40,000. I think that's a pretty safe number to say our total expenses for the initial purchase of our Mooney. So let's talk about the three things that I think led to a great deal for us. Now, like I said, we paid $32,500 was the purchase price. Quite honestly, I tried to get it even cheaper. I knew we were getting a good deal, but I tried hard to get it even cheaper. I didn't realize who I was up against, though. The gentleman we bought it from far outmatched my skills at that time. Actually, I had just read a book about negotiation. Maybe you all have heard of it. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a great book, but it had me feeling real confident, and that confidence didn't really come through or didn't lead to a better price, but we did get a good deal. So anyways, I'd like to talk about the three things that I think helped us get a good deal. Number one, I call it my super sleuthing. That is looking for airplanes in places that other people may not look for them. We all know there's some great websites out there, some great resources to find airplanes. Things like Trade-A-Plane and Barnstormers, and of course your local FBOs with airplane postings up. But I bought mine from a website that is actually much more well known, but not well known for airplanes. Quite candidly, I found the airplane on Facebook, on Facebook Marketplace, to be more clear. Now you might think, why would you buy an airplane on Facebook Marketplace? I'm telling you, they were hard to find everywhere else. I happened to find a website that allowed us to search the entire Facebook Marketplace across the nation rather than just one region at a time or one small 100-mile radius at a time. I typed in the word Mooney and she popped up. The story was kind of funny. I won't go in great detail, but the gentleman we purchased the airplane from had listed it on the major websites as well. He had a deal on the airplane and it fell through. The deal was actually for a higher dollar amount than we paid, but it fell through after some time. I don't remember the reason why. And he took those ads down from all of the other websites, but forgot about the Facebook listing. And I just happened to stumble upon it. So, right person, right place, right time, right? We got lucky. The second thing that I think really led to a great deal was timing. Just timing in general. It was before maybe some inflation that we're seeing or incredible price rises that we're seeing, especially in the airplane market. But probably more than that, it was winter. And we bought the airplane from as far north in Wisconsin as you can go. So we bought it in the dead of cold. I'm talking icicles from your mustache, like cold. And we did a pre-buy inspection in a freezing cold hangar. When we went and actually picked the airplane up, there was snow mounds on the side of the runway higher than the airplane. It was just cold. Not a lot of people were really encouraged to go travel into that environment to buy an airplane in the middle of winter. But we were willing to make that happen. And I think that led to us being probably the only person looking at the airplane and a better price. The last one that really paid off for us was patience. We didn't push the seller. It was a private party to a private party. There was no broker involved. We weren't pushy. We weren't aggressive. Actually, the seller lives in Florida in the winter, and we knew the airplane was in Wisconsin and he lived in Florida, and we needed to meet his schedule. We couldn't push him to be there when we wanted to be there. We just needed to be patient. The whole deal, from the time that we actually said we wanted to look at the airplane and we bought the airplane, it took many months. So that is not an easy thing for me. I am not inherently a patient person, but that really worked well. Just being patient, I think, allowed us to be the front runner in the seller's eyes. He knew we were good people and that we weren't going to waste his time. So again, the three things that really helped me get a good deal on an airplane: super sleuthing, overall timing, and patience. Pretty simple stuff. So I do want to talk just a little bit about how I did initially pay for the airplane. Of course, we own the airplane in an LLC. Don't really need to get into that here. But let's just say it was $40,000, right? I needed $40,000 in cash. But I am in a partnership, so I only needed half of that money. So $20,000 to buy this airplane. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have 20,000 in cash laying around. I know it's a small amount of money for some people and a very large amount of money for others. For me, it's a good size amount of money, and I didn't have it laying around. But because of this world that we're living in, I had some pretty good appreciation in my house, and definitely had some money that I could pull out of there in equity. So I actually did take a home equity line of credit for the airplane, and I got a ridiculously low intro rate for a year from the bank that we used. So I ended up paying like less than $100 a month on interest only payments while I initially owned the airplane. And then, long story short, but my wife and I sold our house, and we're actually working on building a new home right now. And when we sold the house, we paid off the HELOC. So I just paid off the airplane with the equity in my house. So again, I know that's what worked for me. That might not work for many of you. I know there are other financing options, but probably one of the more important things that worked for me using a HELOC, or not having the airplane be the collateral, but having my home be the collateral, was I wasn't forced into any specific insurance. There was no real underwriting, like there was no big down payment that I know happens in some traditional airplane financing. Quite candidly, the bank didn't care what I did with the money. There was enough equity in my house where they knew it was covered, and I actually told them I was buying an airplane, and they didn't ask any questions. So that worked pretty well for me, and it was a good overall experience. Now, I know many people will say, don't put your home on the line for something like an airplane. Again, this was my situation specifically, that I didn't have that risk. Without getting into the details of the rest of my finances or whatever, I just didn't feel I had that risk, and it was a reasonable chance to take. The risk was very small. So to wrap this quick video up, we paid about $40,000 for our 1963 Mooney M20C. You guys have seen all the videos of how it's equipped on my channel, right? I feel pretty good about that. I think the plane is probably worth more money now, especially because it's flying regularly. I think that's a good thing. 2, I own the airplane in a partnership, and it's my belief that partnerships are a great way to purchase an airplane. But be patient and find the right partner or partners. Too many partnerships go wrong because people don't have the same ideals, they don't have the same hopes, they don't have the same plans. They just, one guy wants to keep the airplane as cheap as possible, the other one wants to invest in it heavily, and those partnerships just don't work out so well. I financed my airplane with a HELOC, and it worked well for me. I paid on it for about a year and paid it off, and it's a wonderfully freeing thought to not have an airplane payment, and just know that you have an airplane which in today's world is appreciating very quickly, and I think will continue to appreciate, given the fact that there's fewer and fewer airworthy old airplanes every day, and nobody can afford new ones. Make sure you stay patient when you're hunting for an airplane. The right deal will come along eventually. It may not be the exact airplane you thought you had to have. You may get emotionally attached to an airplane and not end up buying it. These are hard things to overcome, but just know, with a little patience, you'll get there and you'll find the right airplane. And finally, whatever you do, whether you buy an airplane, rent an airplane, or just thinking about airplanes, do yourself a favor and go find your time to fly.